guys, it is currently Wednesday the 16th of March and I'm up in Donegal. As you guys can see, I've just come up here for a week with the dogs. So I've been working the last couple of days. I'm working at the moment, but today is the last day work before we get a few days off for St. Patrick's Day, and then we have an extra bank holiday this year as well. So we have Thursday and Friday off, which is so nice. So we have like an extra long weekend. So I decided to come up to Donegal a bit early and then have the whole week up here and just work from here for a few days. So I just wanted to check in. I was hoping to be able to do this on my camera because it would just be a lot easier to do it on my camera, and like obviously the quality is a lot better and stuff. But I just tried to turn my camera on and I realised that I forgot my memory card at home in Dublin because I had been editing videos right before leaving, and yeah, I left my memory card. So yeah, have to do this on the phone unfortunately, but hopefully it will be okay. So yeah, I wanted to check in because I have finished a couple of books. I haven't done actually as much reading as I had hoped I would by now. I've been here up here 3.5 days, and I finished one book. I'm halfway through another, and the first book I finished was like really short. That one was The Poor Mouth by Flann O'Brien, which is only like slightly over 100 pages. It's like a satirical parody of like the Irish peasant novel that I think used to be published in like the 30s and 40s, and it is just basically an absolute piss take on the Irish peasant farmer. We are following a character called Bonaparte. I actually don't know how to say his first name. O'Cunasa. And he only speaks Irish. He lives on potatoes and fish, and he lives a miserable, impoverished life. And like everyone around him, all the Gaelic speakers are like miserable, and they have like the bad lot of bad lots, and it's just really funny, and like it's very comedic, and it's basically just not like a story that doesn't take itself too seriously. You're just following this character as he goes about life, and all these terrible things happen to him, and terrible things happen to the people around them, and yeah, it's quite humorous like that. So I gave it like a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I think I have seen reviews that say like the translation, because this was originally translated from Irish, the translation loses a lot of like the humour, and obviously I don't speak fluent Irish, so I wouldn't have been able to read it in Irish and been able to get everything out of it, so I had to read it in English. Yeah, I still enjoyed it for what it was, and maybe in a few years I might reread it and then get even more out of it, I don't know. So then I'm halfway through The Raptors by Jan Carson at the moment, which I'm really enjoying now. It took me like a while to get into it properly, but so far so good with it, and this is really interesting. This is set in like I think it's the late 80s or early 90s in this Northern Irish town, and we are following a group of school children who are all getting really sick from something, and they're like dying, like one by one they're getting sick and they're dying. And we're following kind of a few different people around the town, like the different families, the parents of the children who are at risk, and the fear of the unknown, and kind of how what's happening is measuring up alongside things like, you know, the 12th that's coming, which is always like a period of really high tensions in Northern Ireland because of the marches and stuff. So people are kind of like, they have like so many different things to worry about, from like the troubles to then things like really on their home turf, like things like on their doorstep, which is the children getting sick and dying, and how it affects the entire village. So we are following, in particular, we are following one little girl called Hannah, who is from a very religious family, and they're a Protestant family. The town itself is Protestant, or mostly Protestant, and we are following her. She, as I said, she's from a very religious family. Her father is very strict, and she's kind of always been on the outside in school. She doesn't have many friends. But as her classmates all die, she keeps seeing like their ghosts, and they keep appearing to her and talking to her. But they're all like a few years older, and they keep telling her that they're in a similar version of their town, which is called Ballylack, and they're in this other version of this town, except there's no grown-ups around. The only people around are the children who have died, and they're like forming their own gang, and they're telling Hannah like how good it is, while there's others that are telling her that it's awful, and they all just keep kind of showing up to her, and she's kind of starting to weigh very heavily on her, like what's going to happen. Is she going to get sick? Is she going to die? Who else is going to die? Who's next to die? So yeah, there's kind of a supernatural element to it. I definitely think I know why the children have been getting sick, and I feel like we've gotten some hints, and I'm pretty sure I know what it is. So I'm really interested to see how that carries through and what happens near the end of it. There's definitely kind of like real sadness in this as well, because obviously all the children are dying, and we're really seeing the grief of the parents and the worry of the town. So I say, if you're reading this as a parent, it might be quite hard to read. One of the other things I've really enjoyed is seeing that Catholic Protestant divide, which is was obviously not so much now, still a little bit now, but back then during the Troubles was a really big thing in Northern Ireland, was the divide between Catholics and Protestants, the differences between different types of Protestants as well. And we're seeing that kind of come into play a little bit. And we're also seeing like the differences between like one from like neighbouring villages, which, you know, one is mainly Protestant, one is mainly Catholic, and we're seeing the differences there and how some of the people in Ballylack, how they feel going into this other village and the differences there. And yeah, I myself, I'm just finding that bit quite interesting, and because of the period of time that it is set in, and the tensions are so high obviously at the time as well. So I've kind of gotten into the flow of it, and I'm really hoping to get a good bit of this read tonight, and yeah, just carry on with it because I'm enjoying it, and I'm really looking forward to figuring it out. Currently Friday the 18th of March, so I just wanted to check in. This is a picture of a cow, as you can see, in case anyone is wondering what that is behind me. A very cute cow. I wanted to check in as I have some reading updates. So since the last time I spoke to you, I have finished The Raptures. I really enjoyed this. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It was definitely like kind of sadder and slightly bleaker than I originally thought it was going to be going into it. Like, this is about children who are dying of this mysterious illness, and the village is like, the town is trying to figure out like what is happening to these children, and you're definitely dealing with like the worry and the grief of parents, and then also the child that you're following, like the fear that she has, the fear that she is next, but also a sense of isolation in case she is going to be fine, and why anything isn't happening to her, why she is the one being singled out. And you know, there's a lot of like emotion going on with this book. I did enjoy how it was written. I enjoyed the writing style. I enjoyed the pacing of it. I liked how the story all came together. I really liked the background and the environment of the story as well, the setting of the story, the political tension that was around at the time. As I said, I think all of that was done really, really well. I enjoyed it, so I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. And today I had a really nice day. It was actually like really nice and sunny today, and it was a warm sun. Like, I still needed my jumper and everything, but it was warm, and I was able to sit out at the back of the house, where like that's where like a lot of the sun comes. I was able to sit out on the chair and just read for a few hours, and it was really, really nice. And I got a good way into Independent Memories by Valerie Cox. This is the non-fiction book that I'm reading for the non-fiction prompt. This also fulfills the read a book written or set in the 1920s, as a lot of this, these are stories where some of the stories are set in the 20s, around the time of the War of Independence, and then the Civil War, and kind of the years following that, then into the first couple of decades into the Irish Free State, that eventually became the Ireland that we are in now. This, like, I don't want to say it's not good. It is good. It's interesting. I'm enjoying the stories. There are some stories in here that are actually very funny. Like, there's funny tidbits in the stories. And I was reading them out to my dad, and we were both laughing over some stories that were in here that were like really good. But I don't think there's a lot of structure to this book. I don't think it's compiled together very well. And I also think if you didn't know much about the Civil War and the War of Independence, and you didn't know about Irish history at this time in, like, you know, the early 1900s, then the 20s, the 40s, 50s, if you didn't know anything about Ireland and like the political climate and things that were happening, this is not the book that would educate you. You kind of have to know. Like, I think this is a book written for Irish people, really. It's not really a book written for anyone who wants to learn. This isn't the book for that. This is more like, it feels like you're in a room with a bunch of different people who are all telling, like, it's literally people like telling the stories of their grandmother and their grandfather, or in some cases father and mother. Like, these are people telling the stories of people who had experiences like with the Black and Tans, people who had experiences of fighting in the Civil War and the War of Independence, political, like people who were like involved politically at the time, but they're all ordinary people. But the stories are enjoyable, as I said. I just don't think there's any structure to them. And I think there was the first couple of stories in here, the first few chapters, I think were actually quite poor and quite like all over the place. And I was a bit like, oh, like, I don't know if I'm going to like this. I don't know if I should put it down. But I kept going, and then the stories kind of got a little bit better. I got more into the flow of that. It was just like these thoughts just written down. There was no structure to it. It feels like it's literally like everything in this book is just transcribed directly from the interview or the call that the author did with these people. No extra descriptions or extra like information about the times, about like who people were. You're just expected to like to kind of know. Like, at one point someone was talking about their family, and they were talking about like their grandchildren, and they were like, oh, and this is Mary, and as if like Mary had come onto like the screen like in the interview, like on the Zoom call, and it was like kept in the transcription. And I was like, okay, they just didn't edit that out, or like, okay. I think it's only going to be a 3-star, to be honest, and I wouldn't recommend this to a non-Irish audience. I would recommend this to people who, like, if you like me, maybe like to sit down with like your gran or your granddad and talk about like their memories of being young, and maybe like stories they knew from like their mother and father or grandfather or uncles or aunts, and you know, Ireland at that time. If you are someone who has those type of experiences and enjoy that, then you'd probably enjoy this book. And I'll definitely, like, my dad will be reading this after me, and then I'll probably give it to my gran as well, as I think she would really like it. But it's just not something I would recommend to people as a learning point. I'm going to probably try and finish this. I'm actually doing a jigsaw at the moment as well. And oh, I did finish my audiobook today. I'm doing a little bit of my jigsaw, and that was Brooklyn by Colm Tóibín. This I actually chose for the Readathon March pick, which was to read a book with a location in the title. So I chose Brooklyn for an audiobook. This is a reread for me. I read it a few years ago, and this ended up being a really, really good reread for me. I loved it on a reread. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I think the first time I read it, it was more of like a 3.5 out of 5 stars. But I just think the book was so lovely. The story is so lovely told on audio, because it's such a soft, gentle story. There's not really like a lot of action in it. It's all very like, it just plods along, but it was just a really nice, gentle, easy story to listen to, and I just really, really enjoyed listening to it. There is a movie based on this book, but we were following a young girl called Ailish who emigrates in the 50s, I think. She emigrates from Ireland to New York, and you're kind of following Ailish as she starts this new life in Brooklyn, and she is kind of being independent for the first time ever, but she's also really, really deeply missing Ireland and missing her mother and her sister, who she left at home, and she's dealing with all of that. And then she starts kind of, paving this new life for herself in America. She has a boyfriend, and she's like being happy, she's really settled, and then something really terrible happens where she ends up having to visit home in Ireland, and she's really, really torn between staying in Ireland and starting up her old life really, but with new prospects, or leaving Ireland behind again, leaving her mother behind, and going back to New York, and like leaving her family alone. And yeah, we kind of see her struggle with that, and we have to see like what she ends up doing. Yeah, I just really, really loved it. I just thought it was such an easy listen. I just think it's so lovely. There are parts in this that are just really heartbreaking. The grief is very heavy at parts in this. Homesickness is very heavy. But I just really, really love it. I just think it's such a lovely book, and I definitely appreciated it so much more in a reread, and I appreciated the beauty and the simplicity of the story as well, and also how much I would love a sequel to this book. I would love, love, love a sequel to, and seeing like an older Ailish who is married with children, and where she ended up, and what her children are doing, what her children are like. Seeing Ailish at a different point in her life, like older, more assured of herself, more maybe confident in her place in the world, and the decisions that she made, how she feels about those decisions that she made. I would just love to know. So yeah, if Colm Tóibín is watching this vlog, which you never know. You never know. I would really love a sequel, so if you could get right into that, that'd be great. Guys, it is now Thursday the 24th of March, so I haven't actually done a check-in in a few days because things have just been not all over the place, but I had a couple of days where I was just in no mood. I just was having a pretty bad couple of days. Obviously I didn't want to pick up the camera and vlog when I was in a bad mood, but I did get some reading done, so I wanted to talk about that. I am in my parents' house, as you can see, the garden and stuff. You guys are well used to this angle from all my old videos. So I was supposed to be back home by now from Donegal, but then just before I got home, Keane let me know that he thought that he had come down with COVID during the week where I was in Donegal and he was in Dublin during the St. Patrick's Day celebrations. So he hasn't been well for a few days, so obviously I haven't gone home because I haven't been exposed. So, and I had a few things on this week. Sam's birthday was yesterday, so we went out for an afternoon tea, which was really nice, and it was just really nice to have the middle of the day, like the middle of the week off. So I took the day off to bring her out, and it was such a nice treat just having like the middle of the week off and just having a little break in between the work days. I really enjoyed that because I did finish Henrietta Street, the Little Beach Armour of Henrietta Street the other day, and I really enjoyed this. It's just a really like fun, nice historical fiction children's novel. There's some really nice information in this around tenement houses, the history of tenement houses in Dublin and Ireland and how bad they were, the poverty that families and children were living in, and all of it very accessible to children. I say this is like good for kids maybe age 8, 9, 10 onward. Information at the back as well about like just more information about tenement houses, how they worked, circuses in Dublin as well, the history of circuses in Ireland, which was fun. And also there's some like extra reading, like information if people wanted to, but it's specific information for children. So books that would be like information books, non-fiction books that children could read, which I really enjoyed. I just thought I haven't seen that in other books before, where the author has recommended other non-fiction books based on what is going on in her story that are also aimed at children. So yeah, that was great. And then today I am almost finished White City by Kevin Power, and this is the last book I'm reading for the shortlist book I want to do by the end of the month. I'm almost finished this. I will finish this today. And here's the thing with this one, the writing itself has been quite good. I've enjoyed the writing, but the story and the characters, like every single character in this book is horrible. I hate everyone. It's almost like a little bit like Great Gatsby-esque in a way, of this person telling the story of his life and how he became like a chronic addict of something. But we're following a guy called Ben who grew up very privileged. His dad was a very rich banker, and then at the start of the story his dad gets arrested. So he's a very pathetic, horrible character to follow, and he's such a moan, and everything is everyone else's fault, nothing is his fault. And he basically just goes on this car crash of events where he's just taking advantage of everyone else around him and won't take any charge of his own life, and getting involved with these old school friends of his who were basically trying to do this scam in Serbia to do with a hotel, and I think they're basically trying to scam people out of a bunch of money, and it's kind of some weird investment fund thing. And basically we know that goes wrong somewhere. So at the point we're at the end of his trip to Serbia, where something has been found out and we know things are going to go wrong from here. But I actually think the writing is decent enough. I think the story flows quite well, but I just hate everyone in it. Like I hate reading this book because I hate everyone in it. It's not even a love to hate them kind of way, I just hate them. So that's it. I'm hoping to finish that tonight, so I'll update you guys when I do that. But yeah, that's the current status. Hi guys, it is now Sunday the 27th of March, so we are on our last weekend of the Readathon, but there's still a few days left, so I think I might be able to squeeze in another couple of books, 1 or 2 books at least, or 1 book, and maybe finish my audiobook. I did finish White City, the last book I was talking about, and I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars.
kind of the same things as I originally said. I liked the story. I liked the writing. I liked the structure of the story. I think the pace of it was really good, but it was just the characters themselves I just couldn't get on board with, and I just hated them so much. But I have since picked up another book and finished it this morning. That was The Bride Collector by Siobhan MacDonald. This is a book I got last year from Hachette Ireland in exchange for an honest review. This is one of two Irish thrillers I got from them, and this is set in Kerry, and we are following this small town where there seems to be this serial killer at work. There have been 3 women who have been found dead in their beds, and they've been all dressed in their in wedding clothes, and they've all been kind of drugged and suffocated in their sleep. And we are following a female taxi driver and then a male journalist who kind of team up together to try and kind of sleuth it out and figure out what could be going on. I mean, this is a small town, and it was okay. It wasn't fantastic, to be honest. I think the middle part where it was kind of ramping up, where there was like a red herring or two, and you were kind of figuring out more about the town and the inhabitants and more about the characters we were following themselves, Ellie the taxi driver and Scully the journalist, and what was going on in their lives as well. I did enjoy that. Scully, his wife in this, has motor neuron disease, so we also kind of a little bit, not hugely, see the effect of being a family carer as well. It's not a huge thing in the book, but yeah, that was just kind of interesting, I guess, to see. But the end of this, I don't know, it wasn't great. I think it kind of fell off a little bit. There were some things that were kind of, it felt a little bit rushed almost, and I feel like there was some bits with the characters that could have been explored more. I thought who the murderer actually was, it felt a bit kind of lazy in a way. I don't know, I just felt like it wasn't as exciting or as thrilling as I wanted it to be. So I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. It was okay, it just wasn't great. I kind of wanted just something more. So yeah, I'm just chilling out in the garden. As you can see, it is an absolutely lovely day with the dogs, and we are just having, it's Mother's Day today. It's also my granddad's 1-year anniversary. Those who were around last year know that we lost him last year in March, and we were just having a little kind of dinner just to celebrate and remember him, and yeah, kind of do all of that. So that's what we're having today. And yeah, so I don't know how much reading I'll get done today. I need to figure out what the next book I want to read is. I think it's going to be Trespasses by Louise Kennedy, which is a 2022 release. It's one I have on NetGalley, and it is set in Northern Ireland, so I'll update you guys in a couple of days about that. Stretch! Oh, stretch for a girl. Oh, big stretch. Oh, who's that? Oh, is that nice? Oh, is that nice? Oh, is that nice? Oh, oh, kisses. Oh, kisses. Oh, thank you. Oh, is that nice? Oh, belly rub. Oh, belly rub. You're a show off. You're a show off. You're a show off. Hey guys, so it is the 31st of March now, so it is the last day of the readathon. It is almost 5 o'clock, so we are nearing the end. And yeah, this was a great reading month. I always just kind of want it to go on forever because I feel like I always have such a good reading month in March. I definitely think I had more misses this month than I usually do, but I also think it's because I was reading different books than I would usually pick up. Things like the books I was reading for the shortlist, the ones that I hadn't gotten around to. It was an interesting month. I read some really good books. I got some good videos out that I'm proud of, and loads of people took part. We had our Discord channel, which was such a really lovely thing to be a part of. And again, I want to say that that's something is going to be active all year round. So I kind of wanted to be very active during the Irish Readathon, but also just to be there as part of kind of like a bookish group that people can take part in, and people can like talk to other book lovers and, you know, share recommendations, share what they're currently reading, chat and stuff like that. So if you're not a part of that yet, don't worry, you can still be a part of it. I will still leave a link down below to the Discord group that you can join, and if you ever want it and need a link, just message me and ask me, and I will be able to send you one that you can join it. The book that I was reading, that I was talking to you about, which was Trespasses by Louise Kennedy, and that has actually shot up to one of my favourite books of the year so far. I absolutely absolutely loved it so much. It was set in 1975 Belfast. We were following a primary school teacher called Cushla, who is a primary school teacher but also helps out in her family's bar. Cushla ends up starting an affair with one of the customers. He's an older married man and he's a barrister, and he's also Protestant, and we see how this affair just is very all-consuming for her. It's quite passionate, they do love each other, but it's almost suffocating as well in a way. Dealing with stuff within her own family, as her mother is an alcoholic and she's always trying to look after her mother because of that. She's not always in a great state, and we just see how things work out for Cushla. There's always this feeling of dread because of the tension and the violence of the time. We know that the relationship she's having with this man Michael can't go anywhere good. Like, there's not, like, he's married, they're very opposite in a lot of ways. How can it be happily ever after if people found out about them? You know, she could be in trouble, she could lose her job. Like, there's so many different things like at play. Just the way it was written, I just loved it so much, and the last couple of chapters were so good. I just loved it. I keep thinking about it. Probably my favourite book of this readathon. My favourite book of the month was probably this one. So yeah, that is that. So that is that. I don't think I'm going to get any other books finished between now and like midnight, before tomorrow. So that's why I'm going to end this vlog now. Again, thank you so much to everyone who joined into the readathon. We always appreciate it so much, and yeah, it's just so much fun, and I'm already looking forward to next year. So please let me know if you guys took part in the readathon and like what books you read, what things you liked, and yeah, what was your favourite book of the month? I would love to know. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye. You want to say bye? You want to say bye bye?